Welcome to Mariposa Read, Enjoy, and Discover, brought to you by the Mariposa Adult Literacy Program with support from the Mariposa County Library and a grant generously provided by the California Library Literacy Services. This program has received generous support from KRYZ Radio for broadcasting Mariposa Read and Mountain Mrs. Creative Space for the use of their recording studio and editing software. The Adult Literacy Program is available to individuals 18 years of age and older. It is a free and confidential service to help adults reach their literacy goals, such as citizenship, high school diploma, and employment opportunities. For more information, contact the Mariposa County Library at 209-966-2140 or email Mariposa Read, that's READ, @gmail.com. How this program works is, you may obtain a digital copy or transcript of the content from the Mariposa County Library's website at www.mariposalibrary.org. Select the Mariposa Read menu option under the Adult Literacy tab. You may also find them on the Mariposa Adult and Family Literacy's Facebook page under the event with the title of the show. If you would like a printed copy, they may be found in front of the Mariposa County's main library from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, on the Adult Literacy cart just right outside the door. Thank you so much for joining us today for Mariposa Read, Enjoy, and Discover. We have been reading for Independence Day from the PDF that is put out by the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and we will be reading from this document for the entire month of July. And so far, we are down to number 26, and that will be on the bottom right-hand column on page 6. Now remember that you can get a copy of this PDF by finding the link on the Mariposa County Library's website under the Adult Literacy tab. You can also find it on our Facebook page under the event with the same title. If you would like a printed copy and you're local, they are in the Adult Literacy cart outside the main doors of the Mariposa Library, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. till around 4 p.m. We chose this piece because we thought that it would be great to help adult literacy learners. Since some of you literacy learners have goals to become U.S. citizens, this is one of the things you'll need to study for your citizenship test. So we thought that this would be a great thing to read together. It's also a great civics and history lesson for all of us. All right, if you've got your piece in front of you, we will get started with number 26. We elect a president for how many years? 4. And then in brackets it has the number 4. Early American leaders thought that the head of the British government, the king, had too much power. Because of this, they limited the powers of the head of the new U.S. government. They decided that the people would elect the president every 4 years. The president is the only official elected by the entire country through the Electoral College. The Electoral College is a process that was designed by the writers of the Constitution to select presidents. It came from a compromise between the president being elected directly by the people and the president being chosen by Congress. Citizens vote for electors, who then choose the president. Before 1951, there was no limit on the number of terms a president could serve. With the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, the president can only be elected to 2 terms, 4 years each, for a total of 8 years. 27. In what month do we vote for president? November. The Constitution did not set a national election day. In the past, elections for federal office took place on different days in different states. In 1845, Congress passed legislation to designate a single day for all Americans to vote. It made Election Day the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Congress chose November because the United States was mostly rural. By November, farmers had completed their harvests and were available to vote. Another reason for this date was the weather. People were able to travel because it was not yet winter. They chose Tuesday for Election Day so that voters had a full day after Sunday to travel to the polls. 28. What is the name of the President of the United States now? Visit uscis.gov/citizenship/test-updates for the name of the President of the United States. For more information about the President of the United States, visit whitehouse.gov. 29. What is the name of the Vice President of the United States now? Visit uscis.gov/citizenship/test-updates for the name of the Vice President of the United States. For more information about the Vice President of the United States, visit whitehouse.gov. Okay, and on the right-hand side of the page, there's a picture, and it says underneath the picture, the inauguration of President Theodore Roosevelt on March 4th, 1905, courtesy of the Library of Congress. And then it has an identification number after it. Okay, 30. If the president can no longer serve, who becomes president? The vice president. If the president dies, resigns, or cannot work while still in office, the vice president becomes president. For this reason, the qualifications for vice president and president are the same. A vice president became president 9 times in U.S. history when the president died or left office. William Henry Harrison died in office in 1841. Zachary Taylor died in office in 1850. Abraham Lincoln was killed in office in 1865. James Garfield was killed in office in 1881. William McKinley was killed in office in 1901. Warren Harding died in office in 1923. Franklin Roosevelt died in office in 1945. John F. Kennedy was killed in office in 1963. Richard Nixon resigned from office in 1974. No one other than the vice president has ever succeeded to the presidency. 31. If both the president and vice president can no longer serve, who becomes president? The Speaker of the House. If both the president and vice president cannot serve, the next person in line is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. This has not always been the procedure. Soon after the country was founded, a law was passed that made the Senate President pro tempore the next in line after the President and Vice President. The President pro tempore presides over the Senate when the Vice President is not there. Later in U.S. history, the Secretary of State was third in line. With the Presidential Succession Act of 1947, Congress returned to the original idea of having a congressional leader next in line. In 1967, the 25th Amendment was ratified. It established procedures for presidential and vice presidential succession. 32. Who is the commander-in-chief of the military? The president. The founding fathers strongly believed in republican ideals. A republic is a government where a country's political power comes from the citizens, not the rulers, and is put into use by representatives elected by the citizens. That is why they made the president the commander-in-chief. They wanted a civilian selected by the people. They did not want a professional military leader. The president commands the armed forces, but Congress has the power to pay for the armed forces and declare war. In 1973, many members of Congress believed that the president was misusing or abusing his powers as commander-in-chief. They thought that the president was ignoring the legislative branch and not allowing the system of checks and balances to work. In response, Congress passed the War Powers Act. The War Powers Act gave Congress a stronger voice in decisions about the use of U.S. troops. President Richard Nixon vetoed this bill, but Congress overrode his veto. Because we have a system of checks and balances, one branch of government is able to check the other branches. 33. Who signs bills to become laws? The president. Every law begins as a proposal made by a member of Congress, either a senator, member of the Senate, or representative, member of the House of Representatives. When the Senate or House begins to debate the proposal, it is called a bill. After debate in both houses of Congress, if a majority of both the Senate and House vote to pass the bill, it goes to the president. If the president wants the bill to become law, he signs it. If the president does not want the bill to become law, he vetoes it. The president cannot introduce a bill. If he has an idea for a bill, he must ask a member of Congress to introduce it. 34. Who vetoes bills? The president. The president has veto power. This means that the president can reject a bill passed by Congress. If the president vetoes a bill, he prevents it from becoming a law. The president can send the bill back to Congress unsigned. Often he will list reasons why he rejects it. The president has 10 days to evaluate the bill. If the president does not sign the bill after 10 days and Congress is in session, the bill automatically becomes a law. If the president does nothing with the bill and Congress adjourns within the 10-day period, the bill does not become law. This is called a pocket veto. If 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate vote to pass the bill again, the bill becomes a law, even though the president did not sign it. This process is called overriding the president's veto. It is not easy to do. 35. What does the President's Cabinet do? Advises the President. The Constitution says that the leaders of the executive departments should advise the President. These department leaders, most of them called secretaries, make up the cabinet. The president nominates the cabinet members to be his advisors. For a nominee to be confirmed, a majority of the Senate must approve the nominee. Throughout history, presidents have been able to change who makes up the cabinet or add departments to the cabinet. For example, when the Department of Homeland Security was created, President George W. Bush added the leader of this department to his cabinet. 36. What are two cabinet level positions? Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of State, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Attorney General, Vice President. The people on the President's Cabinet are the Vice President and the heads of the 15 executive departments. The President may appoint other government officials to the Cabinet. When George Washington was president, there were only 4 cabinet members: the Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of War, and Attorney General. The government established the other executive departments later. 37. What does the judicial branch do? Reviews laws, explains laws, resolves disputes, disagreements, decides if a law goes against the Constitution. The judicial branch is one of the 3 branches of government. The Constitution established the judicial branch of government with the creation of the Supreme Court. And then above that, there's a picture, and below the picture it says, "The Contemplation of Justice statue outside the U.S. Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C., courtesy of the collection of the Supreme Court of the United States." All right, and then continuing below the next sentence, Congress created the other federal courts. All these courts together make up the judicial branch. The courts review and explain the laws, and they resolve disagreements about the meaning of the law. The U.S. Supreme Court makes sure that laws are consistent with the Constitution. If a law is not consistent with the Constitution, the court can declare it unconstitutional. In this case, the court rejects the law. The Supreme Court makes the final decision about all cases that have to do with federal laws and treaties. It also rules on other cases, such as disagreements between states. 38. What is the highest court in the United States? The Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court has complete authority over all federal courts. Its rulings have a significant effect. A Supreme Court ruling can affect the outcome of many cases in the lower courts. The Supreme Court's interpretations of federal laws and of the Constitution are final. The Supreme Court is limited in its power over the states. It cannot make decisions about state law or state constitutions. The court can decide that a state law or action conflicts with federal law or with the U.S. Constitution. If this happens, the state law becomes invalid. The Supreme Court case ruling Marbury versus Madison, and the V with a period stands for versus, and sometimes you'll see that VS with a period, so that's what that means, established this power, known as judicial review. The Supreme Court also rules on cases about significant social and public policy issues that affect all Americans. The Supreme Court ruled on the court case Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, which ended racial segregation in schools. 39. How many justices are on the Supreme Court? Visit uscis.gov/citizenship/test-updates for the number of justices on the Supreme Court. And the reason they didn't just give you an answer is because that number can change, and it has changed throughout our history. For more information on the justices of the Supreme Court, visit supremecourt.gov. 40. Who is the Chief Justice of the United States now? Visit uscis.gov/citizenship/test-updates for the name of the Chief Justice of the United States. For more information about the Chief Justice of the United States, visit supremecourt.gov. 41. Under our Constitution, some powers belong to the federal government. What is one power of the federal government? To print money, to declare war, to create an army, to make treaties. The powers of government are divided between the federal government and the state governments. The federal government is known as a limited government. Its powers are restricted to those described in the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution gives the federal government the power to print money, declare war, create an army, and make treaties with other nations. Most other powers that are not given to the federal government in the Constitution belong to the state. And that's all we have time for this week. We will start with number 42 next week. This show airs on Thursday nights at 7:30 p.m. and it replays again on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. right here on KRYZ Radio. If you missed the first two shows, we do have a YouTube channel where we post our past shows on there as soon as we're able. If you would like to catch the previous readings, you can find us on YouTube at Mariposa Read Channel. We would very much love to thank KRYZ Radio for their wonderful support of this program and helping literacy learners improve their skills. And of course, we thank you for joining us, and we do hope that you will join us again here on Mariposa Read, Enjoy, and Discover.